If you're wanting to build your own swing arbor out in the yard, you'll see how easy it can be. It also doesn't require a whole lot of materials. But that's what we're doing today, here at the house. All I need for material is 6 4x4 posts and 2 sheets of lattice work. You can make it out of 1 sheet of lattice work if you use 16-inch dimensions, but I'm using 20-inch dimensions, so it's going to take 1 more piece. The pieces that I cut off, I'm going to reuse those. I cut them off at 20 inches for a reason, because that's how wide the 2 sides will be. And I will use those as, I guess you'll call them cross members, to tie the 2 legs together on both sides. You'll see what I mean later. When it comes to cutting 4x4 posts, I do have a 12-inch saw. I could cut them with that. But I prefer to just use my skill saw because I'm going to need it anyways. I've already got it out, might as well use it. But all I need to make is 1 mark. And I'll put my blade inside the cut I just made, square up my table on my board, and make my next cut. Then I'll roll it over and do the same thing. I seen Larry Hahn do this years ago on one of his YouTube videos, and it seems to work with a little practice. But yes, it works pretty good. It's a little more convenient than getting that big 12-inch saw out. And as you can see, it makes pretty good cuts on the end. I'm going to notch all of these posts. I'm going to put a cross member at the top and the bottom of each one. So to make sure all the measurements are the same and line up just perfectly, I square up my ends and then clamp them all together. And I'll draw all my lines at one time. That way there's no way I can miss it. They all have to line up if I do it like this. I know that a 4x4 post is supposed to measure 3.5 inches. Well, these are measuring 3 5/8. I have my lines drawn out where I'm going to notch the boards. So, thinking of safety first, I need to unplug that, then measure the boards. They're 3 5/8, which halfway is 1 inch and 13/16. So I'll take my skill saw and set my blade depth to 1 13/16. These 2 lines I have drawn on here are the only 2 that I'm worried about. I'm going to take my time and make a good straight cut down these lines. Now after that, I'm just going to make a bunch of cuts in between the 2 lines. I don't care if they're straight or not. I just got to get them notched out where I can start breaking the pieces loose. These are the pieces I cut off earlier. Now I only have to make one mark on these because I'm going to notch these towards the end of the board. And it would be no problem to cut and notch and do all these boards one at a time. I just prefer to put them all together, make all my cuts at one time, and do all my notching at one time. It just seems a little easier to me that way. To put this together, I'm using 20 penny nails. And the main reason for that is because I have a bucket full of them on my shelf. But I suppose 16 pennies would work just fine, or you can use screws. But I'm just going to use what I have right here. Okay, so the two side pieces are framed out. It's time to make the top piece. Now I'm just going to cut these off 20 inches like I did the other one. But I don't have to notch any of this stuff. These pieces will actually lay on top. That way they get the maximum strength out of the 4x4s. If I was to notch them, they would lose some strength and durability. I want to keep them as strong as possible. So I go ahead, before I nail anything or tie it together, I pre-drill my holes in the center. The swing that's going to hang on here is 5 foot from chain to chain. So I have to center these two boards 5 foot. Otherwise, when you hang the chain up there or the swing up there, the chains are going to be running at a weird angle if the eye bolts ain't straight up and down with the swing. After that, I tack me down two 2x4 blocks in the middle. I don't really care how long they are. That was a scrap piece I had just laying in the floor, so I just cut it in half and ran with it. But I'll use those to support the lattice work in the middle. You'll see. After I cut out all my pieces of my lattice work, it's time for a coffee break. And you know, I see a mistake happening here if I ain't careful. Keep in mind, all these are made out of 4x4 posts. They're pretty heavy. I'm not going to pick them back up on the table to put this lattice work on the side. I can do that here in the floor. Save on my back just a little bit. I let the lattice work run long 3.5 inches at the top. So when I put the top piece on there, it'll cover it up just a little bit. So here comes the fun part, digging the holes to put the thing together. I already have a video on how to set one of these up. If you'd like to see it, I'll leave it at the end of the video. Oh yeah, that lined up nicely. Now I'll shoot a couple of screws in here to tie it together. So hanging the swing, Jason's mama come outside and she sat in it and then stood up and sat in it and stood up, and we finally got it adjusted the right height that she wanted. And she was very happy with it, and Jason was too. They're very satisfied with it. But y'all, like always, thank you so very much for watching here at the house.